Welcome to a short Mormon Truth video today. This is about Big Al Bites It. Big Al and his tiny video and his big mouth sidekick are in retreat because they can't take the heat in the kitchen and they got the heck out. Couldn't handle the questions, couldn't back up their mouth on the accusations against my video, which factually shows that Joseph Smith did not inform anyone that he had an 1820 vision, and he was not doing the things he said he was at that time in the Joseph Smith history, and his family wasn't either. Testified to by members of his own family numerous times and numerous apostles. Sorry, Big Al, you need a new sidekick and bigger, better videos. Maybe you're on the wrong side of the coin. Then again, your paycheck is probably on the line.
There's no question that Joseph Smith initially had some confusion about the year that the first vision took place. In the 1832 account, he inserts above the line, in my 16th year. Well, that would have made him 15 years old, and that would have been the year 1821. So he's reflecting here, but he hasn't quite got it right. And I think it's important to note that he wasn't probably looking at a calendar. He's just reflecting, going, gosh, when was this? And then he inserts above the line, okay, it was my 16th year. Well, he's off. There's no question he's off on that by 1 year. But by 1838, it's clear in his mind it was 1820. There's just no question. And constantly, any other kind of reference to the timing has always been 1820.
Good grief. This guy's too much. Well, Big Al bites the dust. Professor Alexander Baugh of Brigham Young University just explained to us, in all his sophistry and majesty of academia, that Joseph Smith just didn't have a calendar to look at, so he couldn't remember when God visited him in New York. He didn't bother to write it down. He only had a third-grade education formally, and he just thought it was too much to write down or remember what was going on in his life when God appeared. Funny thing, none of his family remembered it being then either. In fact, none of his family remember him visiting or saying that God the Father ever came to see him. So in my videos on the first vision, the one that's trying to, take a look at why LDS.org has got so many different web pages depending on how ignorant you are about the first vision versions business with 9 different versions of it. If you don't know, they're not going to tell you. They'll just give you the straight Joseph Smith history one. If you do know, then they've got various ways of trying to obfuscate the truth and confuse you and make you believe it. You just need to pray. And if you're worthy, Jesus will tell you it's true. If you don't get the answer, you must not be worthy. Well, William Smith testified numerous times in his life that Joseph Smith kind of got started in his spiritual quest around 1823 when the family started going to these revival meetings that were starting up around that time. And that Mother Smith took them out. Father Smith wasn't too happy about the Presbyterian minister who did Alvin's funeral in late 1823 and implied that he was going to hell for not being a member of a Christian faith or baptized or something of that nature. So he didn't like the idea. But Joseph was supposedly one of the hopeful converts. William was an apostle. Mother Smith, Brigham Young, John Taylor, Heber Kimball, Wilford Woodruff, George A. Smith, have all these guys talking like a general conference, journal discourses, giving talks that say that God sent an angel to Joseph Smith to tell him that he shouldn't join any of the other churches and instruct him, but that he didn't come himself. Nothing corroborates an 1820 vision, and the historicity is just not there at all. It conflicts with things known to have happened with the Smith family. So these things are in my videos. In the Mormon Challenges, Big Al's sidekick, Big L in his very tiny video here that had almost nothing to say, just used his title as professor to make it sound profound, and then he says basically nothing. Well, they challenged, they talked trash basically about my video and said it's full of contradictions, and I said, great, show me. Well, they failed. Couldn't do it. Criticized some other things that I've said on my videos, like how difficult it is to find gospel topic essays, unless you already know about them and know how to get there, you know, like use the sitemap maybe. That's about the biggest thing they could come up with, is trying to show me that they could get to the sitemap without, to the GTE without going through the sitemap. And, you know, these marketing masters say they want us to know about church history, but why isn't it advertised on the homepage, people? They're not honest. The whole thing, the gospel topics essays are completely dishonest, which I've shown in my videos. So another one bites the dust. Big Al's sidekick goes down while what? Using generalizations and name calling. You're hard-hearted. Talk to me when you want to understand someone else's point of view. I understand that point of view. Been there, done that, read the contradictions, read the lies, read the cover-ups, read Joseph Smith's constant contradictions in the scriptures, sometimes the very next verse, like 2 Nephi chapter 5 verses 15 and 16 that absolutely contradict each other. We had so many precious ores and things, and gold and silver. Next verse, we started to build the temple like the Temple of Solomon, but we couldn't really do it like the Temple of Solomon because we didn't have any precious things to be found in the land, except for in the previous verse. Or in section 76, Jesus is the only begotten of the Father. And didn't say Jesus, it was referring to him in the premortal existence story. And then says in the next verse, and by him are the worlds are and were created, and the inhabitants thereof are begotten, sons and daughters unto God. Previous verse said only Jesus is the only begotten. Now every space alien is a begotten son and daughter of God. Section 76. Hey, they couldn't take the heat either. I asked some questions on race and priesthood, and race being, you know, divine disfavor and skin of darkness, since they completely contradict the scriptures there in the gospel topics essay on race and priesthood. Oh, the convoluted baloney this person came up with was unbelievable. Might want to read the comments or see my video. And then, of course, there's the question. The person did answer, sort of, tentatively, on who was the first supposed prophet to see God and live after the garden, even though the Bible and Doctrine and Covenants say that that's impossible. Well, Enoch, of course, is what really the scriptures would tell us, and then everybody in his city, and then all the patriarchs and every righteous person, descendant of Adam, was at Adam on Diamond. Even though they'd already been hanging out with the Lord for 240 years in the city of Zion, they came down to Missouri to get ready for him to come down and talk to him again, give Adam his final blessing before he died 3 years later. And then about, you know, I don't know, 700-800 years after that, so about 1100 years after he started hanging out with Enoch, maybe that messed a little up, he tells the brother of Jared that he's the first guy to ever see him, the first to ever have enough faith. He didn't have so much faith he couldn't see him, and no one's ever had that much faith besides you, Enoch. Excuse me, brother of Jared, 1100 years after Enoch did. Jesus lied to the brother of Jared? But we're supposed to believe he speaks the truth. In fact, the brother of Jared believed it so much that in that same chapter, chapter 3, he says, "Thou art a God of truth and canst not lie." Because he said, "Show yourself to me." And Jesus said, "Well, are you going to believe what I tell you?" He says, "Yeah, you can't lie." So he says, "Okay, great, here I am." And then he says, "Oh, by the way, I just wanted to let you know, I'm Jesus Christ, and I'm the Father and the Son." And then and he tells them no one's ever seen him before. Look it up or watch my video on Ether chapter 3. Take a look at that. Contradictions are replete. So BYU, apologetics, Mormon challenges, tail between legs, and in retreat. As of last night, basically said, can't handle your questions. I can't back up my mouth. I talked trash about your video, but I couldn't back it up. Filled with contradictions. 48 minutes filled with contradictions. There ought to be a whole lot of them. Where are they? Well, you wussed out, whoever you are at Mormon Challenges. You wussed out big time. But I'm not surprised. After the condescending language, you were polite in terms of language. No cussing, thank you. No, you weren't an Eric Lawton. Thank you. No filth. Appreciate that. Just condescending and generalizing and giving false accusations. Couldn't back up your mouth. Basically, you done made a fool of yourself. Okay. Yeah, so talked about that in the About last night, number 2, and the Joseph Smith's First Vision accounts on the LDS.org. Gospel Topics essays showed all kinds of proof that, yeah, these people did say Joseph Smith started things in 1823, not 1820, and there was no God the Father any of them know anything about. Check them out. You will see. They were wrong, and right was me. Yeah, I'm not really into that whole politic thing. So, Mormon Truth videos, signing off for now. We'll get something heavily documented maybe a little later in the day. Check out last night's videos. And laugh at Big Al. Sorry, Big Al. You need a new sidekick. For your teeny tiny videos that say nothing.